punk is a genre sort of about catharsis to me, you know? If you are angry, it comes out as angry. If you are sad, it comes out as sad. You know, like it can sort of go any way. And I think it's like an expression of a lot of my pent up antsiness is how it comes out in this like gleeful sense to me because the good playing guitar loudly is a massive sense of release for me. It always has been since I started when I was 13 years old. And I think that's sort of why I lean into this rock genre is the loudness just feels like an excuse to be myself, be an individual and be unapologetic about things, you know?
Hey, my name is Josh. I've loved indie rock for most of my life, and I play guitar in an indie rock band. But I'm also a psychologist, and I think a lot about the intersection of music and the human psyche and social experience. And I'm especially curious about the ways that music can help us find a sense of community and belonging with others, even for those punks and misfits who might rarely find it elsewhere. In this podcast, I'm joined by my lovely wife and bandmate Julia.
Hi.
We have conversations with other musicians and artists about the music we love, the music we make, and the importance of music as a means of connecting with others. This is indeed an indie rock podcast about the music that binds us. Hey everyone, I'm Josh.
And I'm Julia.
So today we're going to be talking to Max from the band Felix Tandem from Nashville. Before we get to the conversation, we're going to play a clip for you from their song, Oh Julien. So here is Oh Julien.
Sleeping on a high chair, feeling 10 miles tall. Catching season act to please a know-it-all. Packing up my knapsack, then I'll hit the bus. Everywhere I look is a reminder of us. In the sky, on the ground, watching teens fool around. My mind's eye getting drowned. Oh, Julian, how am I gonna show my face at school again? I knew this kind of thing happened in movies, and to you it's child's play. It's been a couple years and I'm feeling alright, but images of you still keep me up at...
Hey Max, how you doing?
Great. How are you, Josh and Julia?
Doing well. So we just played a song, Oh Julien. Just tell us a little bit about that song.
Yeah, so that is our latest single at time of release. I wrote that at the end of last year, I believe, about a shitty boy, but it's really just, an amalgam of several shitty boys, projecting some feelings onto those. I really love this song. It's one of my favorite I've ever written from like a lyrical perspective, from a musical perspective, from a production perspective, from like a music theory perspective. It just like, it really gels together for me. This was our first time working with a real producer. On this track, we worked with a guy named Tim Craven, who I discovered because he worked with a band that I love called Death from Above 1979. And we really hit it off. But he brought a lot of cool ideas to it. We did like some gang vocals. I don't know. It was just like a really awesome process. The whole thing was great. We did it in the studio, live to tape. My first time ever recording a tape. So now we've got like a big fat reel of tape with the song on it, which is awesome. And this is a song that really like came to life, I think, in the studio. We'd been playing it for 5 or 6 months before we went to record it. But working with Tim and hearing it on tape and just really listening to it through those ears of like, how do we craft this into the coolest thing imaginable, really brought it to life. And it changed the way that we play it live. It changed the way that I think about it. And yeah, I don't know. It's been really, really fun.
Yeah, I really like the is it like the bridge, I guess, where it sounds a little bit like you like a voicemail being left or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like it's just like a really cool effect. So you recorded it straight to tape, and then you
Yes.
brought it into obviously there's a process to get that digital afterwards for for streaming and all that stuff. Was it your band's idea to do tape, or was that the producer Tim Craven?
It was a
or-
producer's idea.
Mm.
I mean, it lends like this, not to be all audiophile about it, but it does lend like this sort of glue to it, and there's a little bit of like an energy to just the idea of it all getting bounced together. So
Okay.
what we did is we recorded at the Bomb Shelter, which is a studio here in Nashville, Tennessee, where we live, and we did drums, guitar, bass, and scratch vocals to tape all together. Oh, sorry, there goes the dog. If you can hear that. So we did drums, guitar, bass, and scratch vocals to tape all together. We did like 1 or 2 takes of those before finding, like the one that we liked. It came together pretty quickly. And then we did some overlays to the tape. Like I recorded a Farfisa organ, which is that like Rock Lobster B-52 sound that sounds like so that's buried in there. I did some upright piano stuff, which was really fun. That's in that little down section after the bridge. We tried running a Rhodes piano through like 3 distortion pedals at one point to try to get some like meat to something, and it sounded awesome, but for some reason it was just like it was too much, so we ended up pulling that out in the final mix. And then that phone call effect that you mentioned, we actually recorded on like a rotary telephone. That
Oh,
my
wow.
producer, that our producer has like rigged up somehow to have an XLR output. So it was really fun. And the ringing sound, we jiggled it to try to get the bell, but it wasn't loud enough. So we have that in it with it enhanced by like a royalty free sound effect that we downloaded.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, that was recorded on like a real old school rotary telephone.
Oh, that's so cool. I figured it was like some like cool digital effect or something, or like you EQ'd it
Yeah.
in a certain way to make it like lo-fi, but you actually recorded it on a phone. That's really cool. That's like
Yeah, it was really silly.
Um,
And then it sounds different if you talk into the ear end or the microphone end. You can sort of
Oh,
get
yeah.
different sounds out of it. I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know. It was cool though.
That's really neat. This is a really cool way you guys used it in the recording. Like one of the interesting things that I like to talk about with bands is like sometimes we have extra layers and extra like access to extra instruments than is feasible or accessible in a live setting, right?
Hmm.
And I guess I'm curious, is that the case with this song? And is there because you guys are a 3-piece, right? Three
Yeah.
piece band? Yeah. So do you
Hmm.
guys do you have like recordings or samples that you play like in a live setting if you're playing that song? Or do you kind of do like a more kind of like, straightforward rock version without the sort of extra layers? Like how do you approach that?
So it's a great question. We are very into the idea of the trio as, like a powerful,
Right.
triumvirate, if you will. So if the song doesn't work as a 3-piece, then we shouldn't be playing it. Like it's an arrangement challenge. I went to
Right.
school for music and I love like arrange. I've done things for like 17-piece big band and string quartet and things like that. And the challenge of arranging something is really fun for me. So this song started as a 3-piece, and then we sort of blew it up into the studio, and then now we've been recondensing it back down to the 3-piece. But we
Hmm.
don't ever want to run tracks or anything. At one point during our live show, we had these like interstitial comedy bits, I guess, if you will, that was like running on a looper pedal, um, where we had one that was like PBS viewer donation sort of parody. Like to introduce one of our songs, we have one where like I do like a cheesy radio DJ voice who's like, "Hey, 91.1, DJ Jackstrap coming at ya," like introducing the songs. We decided to strip those away and just like really focus on the 3-piece band for this last tour that we did, and probably for our live shows going forward. So what we did in Julien to sort of make it a little bit more grandiose and big is, if you listen closely to the recording, during the last chorus, there's some gang vocals doing like a na 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 na. And now we have the crowd do that. So we extend that down
Nice.
section after the breakdown, and we like teach the crowd a little sing along with the na na nas, and it has been going so well. People get really into it. Which is, it's very hard to get a crowd to sing along at a show. But we do the song tend to be like second to last in the set, so by then we've sort of won some people over, and they're a little bit more willing to sing along. But yeah, so that's how we sort of make this one feel a little bit big, is by making it interactive. But yeah, just the 3-piece band thing. It really lets Cole's bass part. Cole's our bass player. His bass part really shine. He does some really cool like little lead line stuff in that breakdown section that I love. And yeah, and I don't know, it's been really fun playing it live. People like it.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've always been interested, even before I like joined a band, interested in that kind of difference between, playing on a record versus playing in a live setting, just because like a lot of the alternative and indie bands that I like, they do like experiment in the studio, and they have these layers and all these, kind of crazy instruments that, um, you know, they probably don't break out on stage when they're
Hmm.
playing the song, but of course, some of them will use like, samples and stuff, or they'll set it up in like a looper pedal. But then other ones, they'll just sort of like retool the song and kind of like the way you're describing, and you kind of like lean into other aspects of the song, or you sort of reimagine it with the resources and the people you have. It's just kind of like an interesting little bit of insight, I think, to the musicians and what their approach is for a song like that requires, more than the hands you possibly have to be able to play, all the different things. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
exactly. But it's also, it's like it's what I would want to see as a person who likes music. Is if
right.
I'm going to a concert, I'm going to see live music, and it's, you know, upsetting is maybe too strong of a word, but sometimes a little bit disappointing if people are running tracks and something
Right.
sounds just like the record, you know? Um, like, I saw Lizzo live like 2 years ago, and I was pleasantly surprised that she has a full band on stage, which was just awesome, and it gave the song such energy. Especially, when like a lot of pop artists are really just sort of like running a track, and then it's a
Yeah.
dance party with someone kind of doing karaoke, which is still awesome and fun and cool, and like people make a great spectacle of it. But yeah, for a band of our stature for right now, I'm just like, let's give the people a show, and also, it gives us room to play a little bit because we like being a little bit more organic on stage. If one of us, has an idea and we do something on stage, I don't know, we can respond to each other better than if we're running tracks or playing to a click. So it makes it feel a little bit more free.
Yeah,
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
that's awesome. So yeah, so clearly, since it's very clear that you've thought a lot about like, the just like all the different components of the songs and like playing live and stuff, and also because I'm drinking wine, I'm curious. So if you could curate the perfect listening experience for this song, like listen in a certain setting or with a specific cheese or wine, what's the perfect pairing for Julian?
Oh man, that is such a good question. I feel like a lot of our songs are Home Alone, play out loud, dance in your underwear songs. You know,
Yeah.
like that is it a big feeling that I try to get through in the music, and that we try to get through in the live shows is just like fun, not judging yourself, just like having a good time. It's how I always want to present. I just feel like it breaks people's walls down a little bit, and it just makes everybody in a little bit of a better mood, and it makes people feel loose. That's like the one thing that we get almost always whenever we play a show is people come up to us and they're just like, that was so much fun, and that makes me feel so good over like, wow, I loved your songs, or wow, you're such a good guitarist, or wow, your voice is cool, or wow, like you guys are so hot and gorgeous. Like if someone's having a good time, if someone's having fun at the show, that is like my number one priority, and we always try to keep it that way. If we're not having fun on stage, the audience is not going to be having fun. So I'm so thankful that we all like each other and we can all have a blast. But as long as they're having fun listening to our music, that's what I want. Yeah.
That's
Even the sad songs, have fun, listen to those. Funny, kind of related to that. We have groupies for the first time ever as a result of this tour that we just did. There are these three kids from Birmingham, Alabama, who are like obsessed with us now, and they are blue skying, whatever the blue sky verb is. Like everything that we post, they've been DMing me questions about lyrics. One of them's been posting covers of our music on his TikTok page, and it's like it's so cool. They are awesome, and I'm really bad at social media, but I am so thankful for these kids for like making me want to be better at social media, because I'm like, I gotta feed them, I gotta give them some content. Do it for the fans.
That is awesome.
yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
it's always like super cool. Like I've always gotten excited whenever we've had like somebody that like isn't like a friend or a family member or somebody that we've had to like beg to come to a show, like genuinely like our stuff and then like come to other shows. And I'm like, what? We have
Yeah.
fans. It's very cool. And it's
Yeah.
very motivating. So yeah, that's
The other thing that always feels really good is when the staff at the venue compliments you. When like the sound guy's like, "Oh, you guys were tight." I'm just like, "Oh yeah, that feels good. You do the shit every night." And you're like, "Hey, you guys were good." That feels awesome.
Yeah, it's like they have to be there. So if they are,
Yeah.
enjoying themselves or at least like acknowledging or saying something about the talent, that's really that's nice because
Yeah.
they don't they're there to get paid and do their job and
Yeah,
do it
exactly.
well.
The real mark of success, this has only happened like twice, but when we've repeated at a venue and the sound guy's like, "Hey, I requested to work tonight because I saw you guys were playing." Then
Oh,
you're like,
wow.
"Oh, baby. Oh, yeah."
oh my god.
That's awesome.
Regarding the like what you were saying about like the fun nature of the songs,
Yeah.
I think that what I'm curious about from your perspective is, um, I guess really about like the essence of like punk music and
Yeah.
alternative rock. Some of the songs you have like Prom Night and Oh Julian, they have like a little bit of like I don't know if you'd agree with me, but like at least from the feel of them, they almost have like a bit of not nostalgia, but like almost like a childish wonderment and like a sense of glee to it, like getting at that element of fun. And I guess I'm curious because punk is an interesting genre because there are bands like that certainly that are like really fun, but then there's
Mhm.
also like that fairly like hard edged kind of like aggressive, rebellious, um, that sort of pool of them. And then there's also like obviously like punk that's like more interested in like drugs and whatever. But I guess I'm sort of curious in terms of like your influences, what sort of pieces of those genres kind of spoke to you, and like what that kind of journey was in sort of building the sound that you've developed with your band.
That is a very good question. Wow. Um, Relatedly, I was talking to my aunt last weekend. It was my dad. My dad just turned 60 over the weekend, and she was asking me about tour, and she asked me this question that I'd never been asked before, which was, "How do you decide what your songs sound like?" Which was
Hmm.
basically like when you have the sheet music of a song, and you're like, "Oh, it's a C chord and then a G chord and then an A minor and then an F." You can do that in a bajillion different genres and present that a bajillion different ways, right?
Sure.
And I don't totally remember how I answered it, but related to your question, punk is a genre sort of about catharsis to me. If you are angry, it comes out as angry. If you are sad, it comes out as sad. If you are horny, it comes out as horny. Like it can sort of go any way. And I think it's like an expression of a lot of my pent up antsiness is how it comes out in this like gleeful sense to me, because playing guitar loudly is a massive sense of release for me. It always has been since I started when I was 13 years old. And I think that's sort of why I lean into this rock genre is the loudness just feels like an excuse to be myself, be an individual and be unapologetic about things, you know? From an influence perspective, I love a lot of the energy that comes behind a lot of this rock and roll music. But the two things that have sort of always bothered me, especially in punk, are A, the song structures and the chord structures tend to be really basic. Like the Ramones are doing the same harmonies that Mozart did. It's like a 1-4-5. It's really simple chord progressions, and which works really well for their music because it gets an idea across and it's really in your face. But me doing that 40, 50 years later doesn't exactly feel groundbreaking, doesn't really feel new, and doesn't make me feel like I'm really expressing myself in a way. And the other side of that is I feel like so much loud music is angry or horny, and I am generally not either of those things. So I write about, like frustrations with the world, but through like this, wow, isn't it weird that this is the way that the world works sense? And I really relate to absurdism for that reason. Like Mark Mothersbaugh is a huge influence for me. I love Devo because it's just like it is so aesthetic, for lack of a better term. Like it's all about exploring the sounds and the way that the words work relative to them. And it's like they're when you're breaking rules, it makes it easier to do something interesting within the rules, if you will.
That's a really interesting perspective. Something that's kind of interesting about punk in it of itself is, on the one hand, like I like that there is such a low barrier to entry. So, like for instance, like the Ramones
Hmm.
you mentioned, the fact that they're doing these like really, really simple songs means that like any kid can kind of like pick up a guitar and just like learn that within a couple hours or less or whatever. And it's like a good like starting point. So like I think that's true, and that's kind of nice about punk, because having that low sort of barrier for entry means that you're kind of inviting some voices that you might not otherwise hear, right? But the flip side, I think, what you're touching on in a very interesting way is like, you know, what does it mean for like Joey Ramone to be playing basically the same progression as Mozart? Is that really like moving the art form in a meaningful way? And also, like, is there something about that structure that is limiting in what you can do with it if you're just
Hmm.
kind of repeating it the same way? Um, so, like, I don't necessarily have an answer for that, but I think like what you're getting at um, to me like conveys something interesting about like what the reason that structure has been pervasive, but also like the need to sort of have artists who break free from that structure to kind of play with that, to kind of invent these new sort of approaches in order to kind of
Of
like
course.
stretch the bounds of the art itself,
Well, yeah. Well, because I mean, like the purpose of making something artistic, I guess, is the purpose of art is to expand the expressive potential of the medium, I guess, to sound a little bit pretentious. But I feel like so much of art generally, but music specifically, is sort of two step forwards, one step back, two step forwards, one step back, and that's how things sort of get weirder and more out there. You have people who are like Einstürzende Neubauten, or like people who are making crazy noise music, and then somebody who really likes that and then integrates it into a pop song
Yeah.
that then changes the way that things work, like Daft Punk, I think, is a great example of somebody who like took dance music, which was kind of niche, and then made it pop. Or like Random Access Memories came out in, I think, 2012. They sort of revived disco, paving the way for like Dua Lipa and all of these pop artists to now make disco music cool again, you know? And so you sort of need that like doing something a little bit out there to then pull it back. And
Yeah.
I'm sure this person gets referenced to all hell, but Kurt Cobain, Nirvana's songwriting is weird, and it is something that I strive to be. Is like you were saying, the Ramones inspired somebody to pick up a guitar because they're like, I could learn Blitzkrieg Bop. That's just power chords. Like Lithium is just power chords, but the song structure is so strange and the chord progression is weird, but it works. And that's something that I strive to do, is like make some cool chord progressions that work.
Yeah.
I actually am challenging myself now to write a 145 song, like a basic pop song, for my first
Yeah.
time, and I have something that I'm like kind of digging. But I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Maybe that'll come out. Maybe it won't.
So I'm just curious, like, what does the
Yeah.
songwriting process look like for you? Like, yeah, how do they come to you? How do you write, and like what charges your creative battery?
Yeah. So Jeff Tweedy from Wilco has a book called How to Write One Song that is excellent. I would recommend it to everybody. Listen to the audiobook. It's like 8 hours long. Jeff narrates it himself. Um, and he talks about this, like, I think he calls it the Lego piece process of songwriting that I really ascribe to, and it's basically how I work, which is, if you are just constantly creating and constantly jotting down ideas, occasionally two or three of them will click together, and then that just gets the ball rolling super quickly. So I have like 1,000+ voice memos on my phone, and I have like notebooks full of just like little rhyming couplets or strange lyrical ideas. And sometimes when I'm walking my dog, I'll just go listen through my voice memos. Sometimes I'll bring my notebook, and then occasionally like two of them will just unite, and I'll be like, "Oh my God, that's that," and they'll sort of fall into place. And then, like the rest of songwriting feels like solving a crossword puzzle that, once you can like break into a corner, it sort of just like trickles out from there. Occasionally you hit a wall and you got to sort of like break through that, but bandmates help with that. Listening to music a lot helps with that. So that's sort of how I go. I play guitar first thing in the morning, which I feel like is really good at making me not censor my ideas. I'll pick up a guitar or a bass or something, and I almost always tend to come up with an idea for that, which is fun. But I mean, bringing it back to fun, having fun doing it is a really important part of the process for me. So making something that, I can solo over or I can jam to or I am enjoying playing over and over again, then I'm like, okay, cool, I've got a little bit of a hook there. So I guess that's sort of how I shape songs. The ideas kind of come from anywhere. If I'm like listening to the radio, or if I'm like watching a plugin demo or a pedal demo, and someone does like a cool little musical riff, I'm like, ooh, maybe I can expand on that. But then I tend to demo things out myself in like a very basic way on Ableton, using like shitty computer instruments and a bunch of guitar tracks, and then I'll send it over to the band, and I like working things out with the band. Give them a little bit of creative control, and also because they're the experts at their instrument. So it's nice to be able to kick around ideas with people who like get the music, like the music, and want to see it succeed.
That sounds very much like what Josh does, right, Josh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a dog to walk to listen to the to have
Oh
like a
yeah.
convenient time to that kind of sounds nice actually. The idea of
Mm-hmm.
like listening to the voice memos and stuff. A lot of the process of like keeping a notebook, keeping voice memos, listening for something to kind of click together, like you're saying, um, and then yeah, like demoing out, and then share it with the
Yeah.
band, and kind of go from there. It's a cool way to get the ideas down so that you don't forget it, and you can also kind of like feel it and like hear it in context. But then sending it to the band obviously is like super helpful because yeah, to your point, like yeah, like I just do basic drum loops and stuff. Like you want to have the input from your bandmates who know
Exactly.
their instrument. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I don't often like sit down to write. I should do that more as one of my like New Year's resolutions is to have 6 new songs by the end of the year. But when I'm doing that, I tend to either like I like giving myself a challenge. So
Mhm.
like coming up with an idea and doing something. So this record came out last year by an artist named Nia Archives, and it's sort of like jungle drum and bass influenced singer songwriter stuff. It was super cool. I had not really heard anything like it. I really gelled with it, but it's got like a break beat on it, and I was like, I've never written a song with a break beat. Let me try that. And so I downloaded a sample. I like Googled like top 10 drum and bass samples that get used all the time, and I downloaded one, and I wrote this song around it called "No Man's Land" that we debuted on tour 2 weeks ago, and it's like quickly become a crowd favorite. So we're hoping to record
Oh,
that later this
nice.
year. So that's really fun. And then the other thing I like doing is I have a looper pedal, and I'll like make myself a jam track to solo over, and occasionally it will turn into a new song. And our next single that's coming out on April 18th is called Rumors, and that actually started as like a little jam track that has since expanded. I had this like little like sort of Radioheady jammy idea that was sort of, I don't know, loungy, bicky, boopy sort of something. And I had this other, and this is like the Jeff Tweedy Lego Pieces thing. I had this other like loud guitar part that I didn't know what to do with, and then one day they just sort of clicked together. But yeah, the original like looper demo sounds nothing like the final project. It was just the same chords. So I don't know. It's
That's
it's
cool when
weird.
that
It's different for
happens.
everybody. But yeah. It is cool when that happens. It always feels nice.
Yeah, it feels like just like the evolution, or like like sort of like a muse or something taking you or whatever, when like you get that magic moment where like,
Yeah,
oh, this thing and that thing, like they connect together, or oh, this thing
yeah,
started this way and ends up becoming this other way, and it's just a cool,
Yeah.
the process is nice.
Oh, and the other
Yeah.
thing for writing lyrics and melodies, I do this like ridiculous beatbox thing that I'm sure other people. I think Steven Tyler has talked about it in interviews where he does the same thing, that he just has the music and then he'll just go like, and then you sort of like sculpting. You have like this block of gibberish, and then you sort of just like are like, and then from there you're like, oh, the poster on the wall, and then you sort of like carve words out of it, and then you get sentences out of there, and then I like writing myself into a corner and then trying to justify it, like coming up with a weird rhyming couplet. And then trying to figure. That's how the chorus of Julien was written. I was like, oh, I have the song. I like the name Julien for the chorus. And then I was like, how many rhymes can I think of for Julien? And I have Julien, school again, hooligan. And I was like trying to use weird words and then justify those is a really fun writing challenge. And I feel like it makes me less cliched. Yeah.
Oh, that's
So,
fun.
Anyhow.
Let's get some pizza, a slice of cheese, then we'll dine and we'll dash. 'Cause I'm a diva, I don't feel like paying and I'm short on cash. Yeah, it's exciting when you're trying not to buy them, leave them high and dry, but don't get caught. They're broken heart and you've departed the department store and all the shit you've copped. 'Cause you're a shoplifter.
Gonna shift gears here a little bit. So you guys just finished up a tour. You kind of like traveled to different places, met some different folks. What's your kind of view, I guess, on how music manifests community, whether it does? Like, what's your view on like the local music scene and kind of like where it's at and what's important about it?
Oh man, so many things to say here. I mean, this could have been the whole podcast. We could have just scrapped the whole thing and done a whole hour on this. The best part of touring, I gotta say, like, obviously it's validating, and it scratches our egos to have people be like, "Wow, we love your music. You guys are so cool. Let me buy a T-shirt." That's really fun. But the coolest part to me is seeing all of these communities alive and well all over the country and how different they are. And like the way that people show up, the way that people present, the way that people talk about what's going on, like the venues, the people who run these things, the people who are really active in them. It is very inspiring. It is very cool, especially I feel like post-COVID and post-streaming, music is so much different than it has ever been before. That after COVID really sort of put live music on hold when a lot of even household names were struggling to make ends meet because they relied on live music. And a lot of people could not go out and discover new bands, so they've sort of relied on these algorithms like their Spotify's and their Apple Music's more and more and more to get good music. Or TikTok, I think, is another big way that people get discovered now. It feels like such a necessity and such a way to keep individualism alive, because when the algorithms are deciding what you're listening to, people are writing music that sounds like what the algorithms want in order to get the algorithms to pick their music. And when people start writing music that the algorithm wants, then the algorithm starts recommending that, and like we're going to eventually reach this singularity of 4 on the floor EDM that is going to be kind of sad. Like, I love electronic. I'm not putting down electronic music, but it's just like that is one of the things that concerns me right now. I mean, you even see like a lot of alternative radio songs are now sounding the same. You have sort of like this shoegaze pop that is all over the place. And a lot of these artists are super good. It's just the sound is so similar. And that is the problem is, we're sort of like rewarding these things. But when you are working with a local scene and supporting a local scene, it enables people to be weird on a smaller stage and then celebrate that, like it was going back to Nirvana, it was such an anomaly that they got signed to Geffen, which was like the biggest record label in the country at the time. And it was cool that there was like this explosion that, got everybody playing guitars. I have seen some of like the coolest, weirdest, most experimental stuff locally, and it's so inspiring to see all of that, you know? Just like these strange fusions in combinations that you wouldn't otherwise because it's not really like commercially viable. But all of us have sort of resigned ourselves to the fact that we're not going to be commercially successful, and so it lets you be a little bit more experimental. You know, we don't have or like none of everyone in my band has a full-time gig. So this is not like our sole livelihood, and because of that, it lets us have a little bit more fun with things and be a little bit more organic, and that's the case for like a lot of your local musicians. Um, in Nashville specifically, it's a little bit different, stranger, because everybody here is a musician. So there's this sort of like weird commiseration thing that there's like the hobbyists versus the professionals versus the social media people versus the people who want to be on tour versus like the hired gun versus the session musician. So you have this like common language with everybody, but sort of everyone's in like a different world of it. It's how I would imagine, you know, like actors in LA or New York feel, of like the Broadway actor versus the movie actor versus the TV actor versus the commercial actor, versus like the short film or the sketch comedian. But it does feel so validating, and it feels so cool, and it just makes me feel like I don't know, it gives me a lot of faith in humanity, that it's like, oh wow, these algorithms won't win, despite the fact that they have unlimited money. It sort of like democratizes us, you know. Whenever we go to like a cool all ages venue, or you know, people show out on a Tuesday night and are singing along to our songs or whatever. It's been really fun. One of my favorite shows actually on tour this past tour was we played at Georgia Tech. The Georgia Tech Musicians Network organized something for us, and seeing especially like young kids who are into weird independent music was awesome, you know. Like I've got younger siblings, and they're very much like, oh yeah, well, whatever's on the radio, whatever's Spotify Global 100, we're just gonna listen to that. And I don't know, seeing these kids who are like doing weird pop punk influenced math rock, I'm like, wow, that's really cute. Or, you know, like strange goth doom. I don't know. It's been really fun seeing like all of these genres alive and well, and how varied it is. Just gets me out of my recommendation hole, I guess, if you will. I've got a playlist on my streamer of choice. I use Deezer, if anyone's curious, called Friends, and I have another one called Potential Friends, which are friends or bands that we've played with, and I have like songs from them, and potential friends are bands that I've considered booking on tour or that I found on tour that we have not yet played a show with. And I like throwing those on occasionally, just, you know, like be like, oh wow, I've been in touch with these people, and sort of ground me in that way, that not everybody is a bajillionaire, mega million superstar, you know.
Right.
Even though I do love pop music, I'm not somebody who's going to shame that. I thought Lady Gaga's Mayhem was awesome. We listened to that on tour, really loved it. So I am by no means like a snob. I will listen to anything and everything. But I just think it is important, you know, to like eat your musical vegetables, if you will. Support some local weirdos. Don't buy everything from the big grocery store. Go to the farmer's market sometimes too, to use that metaphor. Extend that all the way out. Does that make sense? Was that a decent answer?
That's the best answer ever. I was like all through it. I wanted to be like, yeah, that's what I want.
Yeah.
That made me very excited. I've been reading or listening, because I mostly do audiobooks, but like listening to this book called How to Do Nothing. I forgot the name of the author.
Oh yeah.
But like she has like a part in it where it's like about like Spotify algorithms and how like just, you know, she would click like, and then it was just like everything was like kind of tailored to like what she already like knew. And then she said she would listen to like radio on her way to work, and it would be like, oh, I heard this like thing that would never have been in my recommendations based on the algorithm, but it's like amazing. And it's just like, it, you know, yeah, I don't know. I feel like not letting the algorithms win is great, because I feel like you can miss out on so much and something that could be really meaningful. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and that's the important part of the community thing to me, is like that human interaction element of it, you know? Like my partner and I talk a lot about how one of the most damaging things that we both felt during COVID was the lack of like acquaintances or like weirdo one-off interactions. Like we were at the grocery store the other day and we were, I don't know, buying eggs, and this dude next to us just walks up and he was like, y'all should get the extra large one. And we were like, what? And he was like, go for the big one. Eggs is expensive right now. Get the 18 pack. And we were like, all right, cool, whatever. And we just had like this, I don't know, it was like a weird 10-second interaction with this guy, but it was really funny. I don't know, this big dude rolling up. And like we didn't have that for a long time in COVID, and those are the things that I live for. Like, when I used to live in New York, when somebody just barely made the subway, and you'd lock eyes with them, you'd be like, "Nice job, dude." Like, I don't know. It's like those like little elements are so awesome, and it's another reason why I love listening to the radios, because I feel like that human curation element just makes me care about a song a lot more. Whereas if the same song came up on radio, like a streaming radio station or like a playlist recommendation, I maybe wouldn't give it the time of day, but because there's a DJ introducing it, I'm like, okay, cool, let me hear this out, and then who knows, in a minute maybe I'll hate it and switch over to a different station. But yeah, I think that's really important. It's really awesome. My most listened to radio station is here in Nashville, Tennessee, 1015 WXNAFM.org, which is a freeform station. And so it's like every hour it's a different DJ doing whatever the hell we want, whatever the hell they want. And there's a couple shows that I like regularly tune into that are really fun. But one of my favorite parts is just like turning it on and being like, oh, somebody is reading poetry over an African drum beat today. That's cool. Or, like someone's singing sea shanties, or I don't know. So it's really fun, and I feel like it keeps me curious, and it makes me more open-minded towards music, when you're not getting that same musical diet.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think there's like a thirst or a hunger for just like something curated and created by human beings, and just wanting to like know that there's a person out there who like cares about this song that they're about to play, and then can maybe like speak to it a little bit, like that part, because you mentioned that with the radio piece. Like, I fully agree. Those like human run, like, non-commercial, smaller stations, whatever, like there's real value there, I think, because they have some, more like diverse and frankly weirder selections, but also there's that human component, which is just really...
Yeah. And not to say that the algorithm has not introduced me to some amazing things. I used to be a Pandora user, and I would throw on my band's Pandora station, and I found some like really awesome bands that way. But it's like it does sort of put you in that echo chamber, a little bit of a vacuum sort of thing. Is that it like gets you out of your comfort zone, introduces you to things that you maybe don't know that you would love, and especially locally, it is so inspiring and cool to go out to a show and be like, wow, there's awesome bands in my neighborhood. I can see them every month if I wanted to. I can become their friends. We can like run into each other at a coffee shop. That's really awesome. So I think people should not discount that. And if you're listening to this, find your local rock club and go find a band that you like, please.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100% agree. And also, and it doesn't always feel like eating your vegetables, like to the metaphor you made earlier. Like sometimes it feels, like, because like there are really talented bands in these local scenes that sometimes put on like really fun shows, or just like, like you could find some of your favorite bands. Like I unabashedly love a bunch of the bands that we've played with. And it's not at all like a chore or anything to listen to them or see them. So it's like, there's some diamonds in the rough, you know what I mean? So
yeah. I will say though, even like to the exact opposite point of that, there is also some garbage out there. And if you do go to a show and you see some stinky hot garbage, remind yourself that you are supporting the scene and doing something really cool. Even if you don't like it, you're still being cool by being out there. Just have a good time, If it's somebody, like just shrieking nonsense into a microphone over, like slam poetry, and you hate it, just be like, I'm supporting the scene. I'm being cool. Try again later. Don't get discouraged. You'll find something you like.
I'm all about that. We've definitely... There's one person in particular who was not like from DC. It was like somebody on tour, and I won't say their name, but like they were
challenging.
It was wild. But I was like, like I'm here and I'm committed. And then I was like, I actually really appreciate this because
Exactly.
it's so bad. Or I don't know if it was bad. It was just different. And I was just like, I would not have had a chance to see this. And there were some kind of cool things. And I just appreciated that person being their authentic selves and loving what they were
Exactly.
doing, even though it was really weird. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's that.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, and that has been like that is my go-to mediation philosophy for like any band problem is that I'm just like, remember, we are doing a cool thing. We're having fun. We're doing a cool thing. So whenever people are like fighting on tour or like it's hour 10 in the van and like we're all stinky because we haven't had a shower in 3 days, we're like, we're doing a cool thing. We're doing a cool thing, guys.
Me and
So
Julia say something very similar because we're also like older and we're married and stuff, and so like there are times where it's like, oh, like I got to get up for work in the morning, the next day or whatever,
hmm
and like I always like to remind Julia, it's like we're like we like front an indie rock band, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, yeah, we might be like in our upper 30s or whatever, but it's like we do cool things all the time with the band and stuff. We see cool
yeah.
friends, who are in their bands, and it is a cool thing, like you said.
hmm
I have one last question for you, Max.
Yeah.
How do you define success for the band at this point? Like how does your band define success?
Me and my partner have been talking about that a lot. So she does improv comedy.
Hmm.
And I was feeling pretty down before tour that I was like, I'm putting so much time and effort and money into this band, and I don't even know what I want out of it. Like, I don't want to be the Foo Fighters. I don't want to play arenas. That sounds terrifying. That sounds crazy. And she was like, you're allowed to spend money on your hobbies and the things that you love. And I'm like, yeah, yes, I am. And so to me, success is still having fun with this, writing songs that I'm proud of, being able to perform every couple weeks to a room of people who is having fun with me. You know, it's money really just is something that enables the hobby. It's not really, like a be all end all goal for us. We ended up actually making some money on this tour, which was amazing. We were not expecting to. We were hoping to break even and we made some money, which is great. So we're going to be able to put that into some future music endeavors. But like, really the thing that keeps us going is, that person asking for autograph or those groupies in Birmingham being like, wow, you guys are so fun. We want to get you in this local festival. Please come back to Birmingham. We want to see you this summer. And it's like, the success is just having fun with each other and for other people. And when that stops, I'll know that it's time to hang things up. Hopefully that will never stop because that has been like the driving force. But yeah, for now we're having a great time.
Yeah,
I
this
love
is
it.
the second time I've been like, yeah, this is great. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's amazing. It's a great
Yeah,
attitude
thank you.
answer.
exactly. I love
Yeah,
that. Thanks so much for talking with us, Max. It was really really fun conversation.
absolutely. My pleasure. You guys are the best. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, Julia. So we just finished talking to Max from Felix Tandem. What did you think?
That was a really great conversation. Max is super smart, and not just because he knows music theory, but it's just, yeah, I feel like he has like really good insights onto a lot of things. I really loved how he talked about, being open with emotions, even bad ones, but like presenting it in a way that's like, I don't remember the word that he used, but I kind of like in the sense of like joyful in a way. And that was great. I really like that we talked about, just music algorithms and how they can get you sort of trapped in like hearing the same things over and over, and how you need to eat your musical vegetables in a sense, and explore what's out there. Um, just, yeah, because you might like come across things that you never would have otherwise, that could be super cool. So yeah, it was a great conversation, and it seems like a super cool dude. And yeah, I hope the band comes to DC again soon, because it would be great to see them and play with them sometime.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, I'll say one of my favorite parts of the conversation was when I got to sort of nerd out about the different kind of like facets of punk. Because yeah, they occupy a space like with their sort of style of like punk and alternative that I just find really interesting because, I grew up listening to some bands that had admittedly a very different sound, but bands like the Bouncing Souls from New Jersey, who I love, who have a very like fun, kind of casual sort of like a lot of their songs are about like kind of everyday things, and it's like just sort of like fun and almost whimsical, if you will. Um, and they occupy, I think, like a similar kind of space with that, but it's a very interesting part of that like punk rock alternative rock sphere, because a lot of it I think is like very like serious or like dark or moody or whatever. So when I get a chance to sort of talk to those who occupy that kind of like more whimsical or fun space, I just feel like it's pretty interesting hearing their perspective on like how they kind of curated that sound, or just kind of hearing about their approach to music and to the art form essentially. So I was really happy I got a chance to nerd out about that. So that was fun.
Yeah.
So, um, really interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Really cool guy.
Yeah.
Really good music. Check it out if you are interested. Um, so with that, thank you all for watching and listening. Again, if you haven't already done so, if you could like and subscribe, it does help us out. And we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.